Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers, and in this video we are comparing two similar but different non-plated Brooks daily trainers. We've got the Hyperion Max and the cheaper Hyperion. Want to know which of these performs best? Well, watch on to find out. So let's start with some quick details then. Well, the Brooks lists the Hyperion stack at 22 mils in the heel, 14 mils in the forefoot for an 8 mil drop. The Hyperion Max has the same 8 mil drop, but it boasts a higher listed stack with 30 mils in the heel and 22 mils in the forefoot. When it comes to weight, in our UK test size 9, the Hyperion weighs in at 8.1 ounces or 230 grams. The Hyperion Max comes in slightly lighter at 7.7 ounces or 220 grams. On price, the Hyperion are £140 or $140. The Max are a touch pricier at $160 or $170. So let's do a quick side-by-side shoe comparison, starting with the midsoles. Both the Brooks use nitrogen-infused lightweight DNA flash foam, though the Max obviously has that bigger stack. In terms of the geometry, they're very similar, but to me it looks like the Max has a slightly more pronounced rocker. It's a bit more curved into the toe. The Hyperion is just ever so slightly flatter across the bottom of the shoe. It's also slightly narrower throughout this kind of midfoot section into the heel. When it comes to the uppers, up top, the Hyperion Max has a stretch woven upper with 3D fit print to provide a bit of structure and breathability. The Hyperion has a warp knit and mesh upper that's just a little thicker and a little bit more dense. The heel collars offer the same mid-level padding, not super plush, not too minimal, nicely balanced on both shoes. There's a bit more padding to the Max tongues that sits under those laces, so it offers a little bit more protection from lace pinch. Flip them over and you'll see here that the Hyperion has marginally more outsole rubber, just a shade more coverage in the forefoot area. The Max has more cutouts to help save weight. So when it comes to fit, I ran true to size in the Max and I found the fit good, just the right amount of hugging across the top, roomy enough in the toe box, good heel hold, decent lockdown across the midfoot, and overall it felt good on the foot, and I would recommend going true to size. In the Hyperion, I ran in a UK size 9, which is half a size up from my regular size. I'm somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9, but I tend to go 8.5 in most shoes. And the 9 was a little long for me, just a little bit of extra length in the toe box. So having tested half a size up, I'd probably recommend going true to size in these shoes, though they were also a little bit narrower across the midfoot, but not enough, I think, to make me want to go half a size up the whole time. So when it comes to the run test, I've run around 50 kilometers in both of these shoes. That's across a range of paces from easy up to intervals and fast to sustained efforts, mainly on road, but also on some light river paths and park trails. I've also done a side-by-side mile, and here is what I found when I did that. So I've just done the side-by-side mile. I have got the Brooks Hyperion Max on the left foot. I've got the Hyperion on the right foot. Had some key differences. So unsurprisingly, basically that bigger stack on the Hyperion Max is noticeable. It's a bit more bouncy. It's a bit softer actually when you initially land, but then it returns with a bit more spring. The Hyperion is just a little bit flatter. It's a little bit duller, ever so slightly. Its margins, again though, as ever with some of these shoes, when you put them on, the difference between the two of them is not huge actually, but you can feel the higher stack in the Max, and you can feel it giving you a little bit more return when you're kind of springing off and after that initial landing. And because you've got that higher stack of nitrogen infused midsole foam here in the Max, it does affect the stability ever so slightly. I think they're marginally less stable than the Hyperion. The Hyperion to me feel like at the forefoot they've also got a slightly wider base just into the mid to forefoot. I'm not really sure. I did measure them and I couldn't sort of see exactly it's in millimeters, but when you've got them on the foot it actually feels like you're landing on a slightly wider base into that forefoot area. The other thing I do feel like you notice the geometry, there's a little bit more curvature towards the toe of the Max that I think does help with that kind of roll through and that clip through. That's working with that sort of bounce back from the midsole foam to give you just a little bit extra pop overall from the shoe. Whereas with the Hyperion, it is just a little bit flatter, it is a little bit dull. I think you have to work a little bit harder in that transition to get your kind of feet back up. It's just leaving ever so slightly more for you to do. Yeah, and I guess that's going to be the major difference here. If you want a little bit more bounce, a little bit more spring, a little bit more energy, you're going to get that from the Hyperion Max. The Hyperion, just a little bit more traditional, a little bit less bouncy, springy, a little bit less energy, but I think they've both got their place. And my initial thoughts after doing that side-by-side mile is going to come down to something like this. If you want something with a little bit more bounce, a little bit of a bit more cushioning, a bit more protection, and a bit more energy, then that's going to be the Max, but you're going to sacrifice a little bit in terms of stability and ground kind of contact and connectedness underfoot. And if you want something that's more traditional in terms of the overall feel, then I think the Hyperion is going to be a shoe for you. Which one would I choose? Well, I'll answer that in the verdict. So onto the verdict then. Now, interestingly, Brooks classifies the Hyperion Max more as a race shoe rather than a trainer, while the Hyperion is labelled as a daily trainer. But I actually think both offer pretty good and similar versatility. They can both do both jobs of training and racing, I think, up to a certain distance. It just depends on how you like your ride. If you want more cushioning, a bouncier return, the Max is basically like a slightly pumped up, more energised alternative to the Hyperion. And the Max is probably better suited in some ways to longer, faster efforts, while the Hyperion offers a slightly more subtle and somewhat firmer, more direct ride. You can still run long in it, but for some people, I think that ground feel may make it better for shorter, faster efforts during training and shorter, faster races if you feel that way. I enjoyed both of these shoes overall, but if I had to choose one shoe, I think I'd probably pick the Hyperion over the Max. I don't think the Max just has enough extra to warrant the £20 that you'll put on top of that. And when it comes to daily trainers in general, I think these both come up firmer and more direct than many of the options out there. And while I like them, neither shoe really blew me away compared to some of the other really good daily trainers we've got. And I think I'd still pick shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Speed or even the On Cloud Flyer 7 ahead of both of these shoes. So there you have it. That has been our head-to-head of the Brooks Hyperion and the Brooks Hyperion Max. Hope you found it useful. Hit like and subscribe if so. If you want to see what made our list of the best daily trainers, that video will be appearing on the channel just about now. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers. Happy running, people. Good luck with whatever you're trying to achieve out there.